Calling this meeting to order, Councilmember from Ward 1.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember from Ward 2.
I'm present.
Councilmember from Ward 3.
Present.
Councilmember from Ward 4. I do not see. Councilmember from Ward 5. Don't get. Councilmember from Ward 6.
Present.
All right, we've got quorum. With that, we can say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. If I can get a motion to approve the agenda, we can get started.
Motion to approve the agenda?
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Watson. Been motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, guys have it. We now have resident input. There's a resident in person or online. Forward, say your name, your ward, and please keep your comment to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone online?
Not with their hand raised yet.
Anyone in person? No. All right. Well, with that, we'll start with you, Chief. We're doing the police department's budget review.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Deputy Chief and I are happy to present the budget that's been proposed for FY26 for the police department. I'm going to ask Giselle, we have a PowerPoint presentation that will give an overview of the accomplishments of where the department was and what we've been able to achieve throughout the course of this year. So I'm going to ask Giselle to bring that up on the screen, if you would. And this presentation will be posted on the website once it's presented. Giselle, next slide, please. Giselle, can you bring that back, please? So I promised those in the room, this is not an eye test.
I have failed.
But we'll just, and we won't spend a lot of time on this. We realize that the numbers are what's important, but we do want to share with the mayor and council and the community. First, we start with our mission statement. Obviously, that's the most important because it provides the driving principles for the police department. We're to focus on our 21st century policing principles as well as safety and security for the community. The objectives of the police department starts first and foremost with community safety and protection. That's always our priority to address crime, the prevention of crime, and probably most importantly is the fear of crime. We moved down to building trust and legitimacy, and we encourage that through our community engagement and our community-oriented policing programs. Not the least of which professional and ethical conduct, holding all of our staff up to the higher standards of professionalism and integrity through our departmental policies and procedures, as well as the town code, state and federal law. Resource management and efficiency. We're entrusted as your police department to utilize our resources in the most judicious way. And then professional development, so we continue to train and educate and most importantly, encourage a higher education of our staff as it helps, we believe, to improve decision-making and communication skills. Giselle, if we can go to the next slide. These are the goals for the police department. First, again, crime prevention and reduction. We've achieved this in a number of ways. Those bulleted points are, first and foremost, we've been able to acquire or achieve the minimum staffing necessary to be able to place our police department on a 24-hour service consistent with, also consistent with acquisition of annexation. We hope we have not, but we still are moving forward towards the reestablishment of our criminal investigation division. We've enhanced our training for our staff, and we ensure the effective utilization of our departmental resources. Community partnerships, the renaming and instituting our police and community together, our PAC. Our home checks, our elderly watch program, which we recently introduced during a council meeting, the continuation of our ward walks and talks, and we continue with the camera and wheel lock rebate programs. We want to remind the community that is still a very active program and to take advantage of it. We do reimbursement up to $50 for camera systems that where we receive receipts. And as it relates to wheel lock rebate, we'll remind residents, because there's so many different models of cars out there, we'll rebate up to $50 for wheel locks if the residents choose to put those on their cars. Continue to promote our accountability and transparency through the budget process, professional development, and in the health and wellness of our staff and partnerships with a fitness program. Moving on to the budget activity detail, and you'll see this more deeply when we get to the actual budget numbers. Certainly our retirement program, folks don't often think of a retirement program as a recruitment or a retention tool, but it certainly has its advantages in that. And our participation in the state LEOPS program ensures that we're part of a larger pension system that provides stability that many agencies, law enforcement agencies, particularly agencies the size of Cheverly, do not have the benefit of. So travel and training, we certainly have to meet all of the mandated standards established by the Maryland Police Training Standards Commission, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. For our annual training, our police academy entrance level training, not in here, but, and I'll speak to it here and then later, the academy training for entrance level continues to accelerate in costs. When I first got here, it was about $4,500 to put someone through the academy. That's now increased to over $7,000. And that's whether we use the PG Municipal Academy, Prince George's County, Anne Arundel County, or even the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission. It's just the cost of doing business. And we continue to focus on our leadership development for our first and second line supervisors. Materials and supplies is just the cost of the daily operation. Equipment is exactly what it says. It's that essential equipment, whether it's firearms, ammunition, or body armor or uniforms, as well as vehicles, fuel, and things of that nature. Community engagement, particularly important for the town, not just for the police department. Our Public Safety Day, I'm reminding everyone we're moving it up to the spring this year, so it will be on Friday, May the 30th. And that allows us to segregate that from Cheverly Day as well as National Night Out, which we do in August, and actually, frankly, gives the police department a little bit of breathing room. Professional association memberships. I say this candidly. The deputy chief and I, me in particular, most of our careers in the rearview mirror. This is about succession planning and building the department and making sure that those that are here in the department, your department should grow within, and you should have confidence that those that we are hiring today will be the future leaders of this police department. And they're certainly demonstrating that. And I can't speak more highly about Sergeant Blunt and Sergeant White and Sergeant Byler and the work that they have done. And you know that I've sing their praises because this police department wouldn't be here if they hadn't stayed with us. So again, I want to give a shout out to them, as well as our corporals that we recently promoted, and the work that they're doing, not only on the street in the absence of the supervisors when the supervisors aren't there, but more importantly, developing their professional skills. We continue applicant screening, medical exams, psychological exams, drug screening, fingerprinting. We do our fingerprinting in-house now. We also do our truth verification examination in-house now. Corporal Soller is trained on the voice stress analyzer. So that saves anywhere from $450 to $600 per applicant because we're doing it in-house. So well worth the money. Wireless communications speaks to itself. Specialized services and repair and maintenance of all of our automated equipment, town equipment, radios, AEDs, etc. Auto repair, which has been added, is on the budget. And then the Axon camera system, which is body-worn cameras, in-car cameras, the sidearm holster cameras, as well as the device on our tasers that activate when the taser is drawn and deployed. It activates the cameras. the deputy chief and I are very anxious to set up a demonstration for the mayor and council and the general public as to how these systems interact with each other. So I think it's important for the community to understand now if our officers draw their weapon, and we've talked about this and we've finally been able to achieve it, if our officers draw their weapon from their holster, their body camera activates automatically. Their in-car camera activates automatically. So under stress, they don't have to think about trying to do an additional step or multiple steps. More importantly, it activates the body car cameras and in-car cameras of everyone within 50 feet. So it's designed to capture those all of those images. Of course, the downside to that is with all of that video camera, subject to MPIA requests, so that's much more video that's got to be reviewed by a records manager and redacted. But it's well worth the cost of doing business. Next slide, Giselle. I can't see that myself. Okay, and so professional development. These are just some of the training courses that our officers have participated in. Our officers and our civilians, investigators courses, basic investigators. Homicide investigation, not because we're going to be the primary on a homicide investigation, but you understand how important it is to preserve the crime scene and all the evidence associated with those investigations. Crash reconstruction and so on. As far as recruitment, training, and certification, we continue to recruit. We've also certified several of our officers as field training officers, as well as firearms instructors. And we also assist with the Prince George's County Municipal Police Academy during the hands-on training. Leadership development through the Maryland Chiefs, IACP, the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Program. So it again speaks for itself. Some of the workshops and conferences, obviously, we're very active with the Maryland Chiefs, the Maryland Municipal Leagues Police Executive Association, and again, the FBI's Law Enforcement Executive Development Program. Ultimately, I hope to be able to get Cheverly a position. We hope to get Cheverly in a position where we have someone attend the FBI National Academy. I had the opportunity to do that back in 2014. It's 10 weeks, live-in academy. All of the training and board and food and everything else is paid for by the FBI. But I will tell you, it was the pinnacle of my career as it relates to professional development, because it's not just the training, but it's the relationships that I was able to develop and maintain with my fellow graduates from the FBI National Academy, not just here in the United States, but around the world. Cheverly has never had anyone participate in the FBI National Academy, and that needs to change. So, as well as the Police Executive Research Forum, which is part of the Harvard Institute up in Boston. So, those are part of our future professional development programs. Some of the quality service improvements. Can't see that, Joan? I'll be up to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, 24/7 service. We've implemented as everyone knows, our automated speed enforcement. Redesigned our police cruisers because with the consensus of the mayor and council and the community. So it is, I think the mayor said it best, more approachable, which is what we want our officers to be. So I'm not going to go through all of that. I do want to go over, it's listed as miscellaneous information on the next page, Giselle. And frankly, I should have looked at this a little more closely because it's hardly miscellaneous to suggest that, or to note that we have hired 10 new sworn police officers in the last year. So we went from 4 to 10 and in 1 year's time. And I have to credit the deputy chief because she is a one-person recruiting machine. And she's getting all the airplanes and calling me from Texas saying, I just spoke to a flight attendant. She's applying for our police. Okay, all right. So tremendous work there. We hired an automated enforcement program manager. We participated the first time in the Maryland Special Olympics, charity of choice for the Maryland Chiefs and Sheriffs Associations. We drafted new service agreement contracts with Axon, which helped to save the town money in the long run because we were able to consolidate those contracts that were multiple contracts prior to. And then the last thing I want to point out, and I said earlier on that we have a fiscal responsibility to the town to be judicious in our spending, but also finding ways to save money. Through the work of the deputy chief, we were able to acquire the new in-car radios and patrol portable radios for our department with the increased staffing at no cost to the department. The deputy chief worked her magic with her relationships and her connections with the county and saving an estimated $120,000, if not more, on those radio systems. Again, the deputy chief, or anybody that hasn't been over to the police department, we're in the process of painting it and brightening the colors up so it's not the dull, drab, walk-in dark brown on the walls. But along with that, she was able to acquire equipment or purchases via Facebook Marketplace that cost probably less than $500, but would have cost us nearly $15,000 if we could replace those desks and all those furnishings. Equally important, the police department had deadlined 10 of the police vehicles, put them out of service because of mileage and equipment failures. Rather than purchasing 5 new cars and upfitting 5 new cars, we were able to resurrect 5 of those 10 by cannibalizing the 10 down to 5. We put about $20,000 to $25,000 into those 5 vehicles, but if we'd had to purchase 5 vehicles and upfit them at about $80,000 a piece, we're looking at $400,000. And last but not least, the Haunted Halloween, which will come back for a return visit this year. I was going to say next year, but next Halloween, and all of those decorations, including all of the haunted figures outside, were either donated or acquired through outside funding sources. So we were able to provide that event to the mayor and the council, and those of you that were willing to dare the haunted house, as well as our community. And if we could. I think next year we will plan to have additional food and so forth and hot chocolate beverages, because I think that line probably circled the perimeter of the town, but we were able to accommodate it. So those are just some of the work that's been done by the police department. And then the last page is just an organizational chart so that everyone has an understanding of how we operate as your police department. For the chief and the assistant chief, of course, Lieutenant Bill Gleason will be swearing in on Thursday of next week, but he starts on Monday. He'll be overseeing all of the patrol. And then the other categories we built in here for future growth, an administrative lieutenant. That's not a filled position right now, but the assistant chief oversees all of the administrative aspects, including our professional responsibility, which is commonly referred to as internal affairs. Our training, our investigations, which we still do, our community engagement, and our automated enforcement. So I'll stop there. Deputy Chief, am I missing anything?
No, sir.
And any questions on kind of that's the year in review in about 10 minutes. And that'll be online for everyone. Okay, so.
Okay.
I have a question.
Councilman Gallagher?
Thank you. I just wanted to see on the org chart, I think at one point you had talked about trying to get an investigative unit. Where would they fit on the org chart?
Yes, sir.
Or is that?
No, that's good. Good question, Councilman Gallagher. And so you see there's a administrative lieutenant position, a patrol lieutenant, administrative lieutenant. That administrative lieutenant is for future growth. There is underneath the administrative lieutenant is an investigations and community engagement. It would be a combined responsibility. So while that position is not staffed at this time because of we don't have the staffing for it, rest assured that those investigations that we can do, we are doing, particularly with our sergeants. Sergeant Ballant has been leading that charge for us. Those investigations that we cannot do or don't have the capacity to do are still conducted by District 1, Prince George's County's Division 1, and we work in tandem with that. And then, of course, those more serious crimes of homicide, rape, sexual offenses are handled by Prince George's County's Criminal Investigations Division. Does that answer your question, sir?
It does indeed. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
And I do want to point out that, and it comes down to the investigations. Mayor and Council, you're aware that there was a robbery of a 7-Eleven 2 days ago, that the suspect was seen in the town over in Kilmer and Oak, engaged in a foot pursuit with two of our officers, an armed suspect, while the individual escaped, at least momentarily that day. Our officers recognized him from previous criminal activity in the town, and through working with the robbery detectives from Prince George's County, we were able to confirm that he was in fact the individual that committed the armed robbery. Warrants have been issued, and all of that work, the majority of that work, legwork, was done by your Cheverly officers, Sergeant Blunt, and who else? Sergeant Corporal J. Lee and Corporal Valencia. So tremendous work by all of them, but they spotted the individual. He matched the description, engaged in a foot pursuit, but they were able to identify him. So through previous contacts. So even though we may not be doing the actual charging, we're intimately involved in the investigation. So.
Any other questions or comments at the table? No. And it's just Councilman Gallagher. Do we have Councilman Garza's joining?
No, but I do see Mr. Galloway, and I would attendee, and I would know if they need to be promoted.
Okay. I will offer one comment before we take anyone from committees. Everybody on my raise hand. Just on the kudos for the haunted house, I would love to do a comparative analysis of Halloween's before to see how much crime we had, because there's an added benefit to that, which is there's no crime in town when people are at the police department having fun. So that's a huge savings that we can't even imagine. But I think we could probably calculate to some degree. So many thanks for that. All right. If you'd like to come forward, state your name, ward, speak into the mic. It's just once for questions and comments.
I don't know if there'll be one when we get to the actual numbers, but my question right now is if you could talk a little bit more about LEOPS. Back in 2017, the town engaged in LEOPS and did a pickup for LEOPS, I think was 8 years. And whether or not you know, like, what those numbers are looking like. And then also, I'm just curious, and I've forgotten, what is the vesting period for officers for the ops? Thank you. Leila Riazi, Ward 1.
So I don't have the numbers from back in 2017, but I do have the numbers, and our projected expenditures for the LEOPS pension this year is $275,000. Okay, and then as far as vesting, it's 10 years minimum to vest. But that when that vesting occurs, if someone vests and leaves early, they don't get that retirement right away. They have to hit that ultimate 25-year, 10-year time that would have been required. So, which would just lead me to say that's why we felt it was important last year when we presented the pay scale for mayor and council's consideration for the sworn officers that we factored out to that 25-year time frame, because that's how far the ops goes out. So we wanted to make sure that there was an incentive for our officers to stay and retire and as Cheverly police officers, homegrown and retired.
My question with the pickup period is, do you know if there's any reduction in costs? Like, if you could explain more of the pickup period, because I've lost track of that over the time.
Yeah, I would have to get back to you. I'd have to have a conversation with our accountant, Mr. Galloway, because I know that there's an initial cost to get into the lead ops, and those costs are factored in but I don't know how far out over the period of time they spread. So,
Helpful, my brain says 8 years, but it could be in that. Thank you.
Councilmember Watson?
Okay, I'll jump into the numbers, I guess.
yep. Bring them up on the screen.
Yeah, I haven't made it past personnel, so I'll jump in on personnel, I guess.
Okay.
So the personnel budget for FY25 is 2.6 million. Do you think we're going to hit that or exceed it? Or, I mean, we have the February 28 numbers here, but how do you think, or do we have an estimation of how close we're going to get to the 2.665?
Hey, can I interject here for a second, if you don't mind? Thank you so much, you all. This is Delane. We haven't went over the line, the budget yet, correct? You just went over the PowerPoint, correct, Chief?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can you answer these questions, and can we save the questions for the line items until the end so that you can answer all of the questions collectively?
Okay, so you want to, sure. I mean, I'm whatever you want. That's fine. Do you want other questions now and then go through them, or are you saying go through them and then?
No. Yeah, I'm saying go through them, but the chief can go ahead and answer that question. But what I'm saying is, before we start picking at each line item, if he can go through each line item and present the numbers and then answer the questions, I would appreciate that.
So to answer your question, as of December, our salary level was at 42.2% of the overall budget. So we were
Salary, not personnel.
no, personnel.
Personnel.
I'm sorry,
Oh.
all the way down the line. Yeah.
Okay.
So the entire personnel was down around 40. Let me rephrase that. I'm sorry. Salaries was at 44%. Recruitment and retention was at 68%. I'm sorry, overtime was at 68%, and I'll explain that. But everything else was well below 50%. The overall budget was only at 42%.
Okay. Well, I'll obviously let you go through the thing. I would say that you're definitely going to have higher personnel costs in the last two quarters of the year because you have more staff.
Because we have more staff.
But go ahead. Sorry.
But I don't.
I jumped the gun, I think.
But I don't anticipate us hitting the full amount. That helps. Okay. All right. If we can get the budget up on the screen. So in our, I'll start with the salaries. The proposed budget for FY26, $1.9 million. I want to point out, and this is in a separate Excel spreadsheet, which we can share on the screen if necessary. In fact, yeah. Giselle, can you bring up the spreadsheet that just shows the current salaries? So the 1.911, which would probably be at the bottom of that.
Mm-hmm. It's right there.
Okay. All right. Giselle, can you scroll up, please?
Yep.
Slightly. Okay. All right. So this chart here shows the current staff. It shows the 3 vacant positions that we have under the sworn staff. And the first line shows the current salary. That 1.9 is higher than what was proposed in the FY25 budget, but that's because of the addition of the lieutenant's position, as well as we carried 3 positions. You see the vacant positions. We carried those positions as if we were hiring experienced police officers. We wanted to make sure that we had sufficient salary in there. But again, those positions are vacant. So while that's showing a 1.921, that number is actually artificially inflated. What's more important, I think, for the mayor and council to note is that we factored in a 1.5% COLA, and we froze 2 of the vacant positions for the first 6 months, which actually brings the salary line in come July 1 of 2025 at slightly under by about $176. So it brings it under the what was proposed for FY25. Giselle, we lost the page. Giselle, can you bring that page back up, please?
Yeah, Chief, just give us 1 second.
Okay, all right. So even with the 1.5% COLA, by freezing those 2 positions, and we're not advocating that we should or we shouldn't, but we wanted to give that consideration to the mayor and council so that you can see what we're trying to do is keep the budget flat for the moving into FY26. So it shows the 1.5% COLA, and then scroll down, you would see the 1.797007, which is slightly under the FY25 budget. So that 1.911 is the second half of the year. And that's if all of those positions were filled and adding in the anniversary steps of 2%. So Giselle, if we can scroll down on that. Okay. All right. So anyway, it just kind of gives you some general. If we can go back to the budget sheet. So I just want to give a brief explanation of where that 1.9 comes in. That's the high level on the budget. The recruitment and retention is $60,000. That's a continuation of the bonuses for those that would be due or new hires that we bring on. So we factored that in. On the overtime, under the FY25 budget, we budgeted $80,000. We broke that down into different categories this year as operational necessity, court overtime, and then specialized events, which would be our community events, so that we have a better understanding and more clarity as to where that overtime money is being spent. Below that is a new line for WMATA. That's the Cheverly Metro. It's $261,000 in the budget. We have a contract with WMATA where they reimburse the town for that expense. So while we've incorporated it into the budget to show it as a budget line, on the general revenue side, it shows the revenue coming back in. We also charge an administrative fee, so our officers work it at their overtime rate plus a 5% administrative fee that WMATA reimburses the town. Any questions on that?
Just want to make sure I'm clear what you're saying. It's in the budget, but basically it's going to be refunded back because of
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the other point that I want to make right now, this current fiscal year, our officers have worked overtime in the amount of about $30,000. So we put that amount in because that's what's contracted. Given our staffing and the shifts that the officers work, the likelihood of ever achieving that amount is slim to none.
Just a quick follow-up. If you can say now, the WMATA contract, is that 24 hours? Is that just certain day-to-day operations? If you can state it.
So that they give us certain hours that they prefer for us to work it when when the Cheverly Metro is the busiest based on our customer count.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So the officers will either work it before their shift or after their shift, but we don't allow leave to work that.
Got it.
Councilor Russell.
Okay. On the 1.9, so the personnel is like 3.1 million. So I guess my first question is, the non-salary part of the personnel has grown 25% from year to year. So maybe just say a word about that. It's about 900,000 in the 2025 budget, and it's 1.2 million in the 26 budget. And then number two, if I understand correctly, the 1.9 million for the salary is kind of a maximum if everyone was to be given the 2% merit, but that's not necessarily the intention.
We showed it as the max.
And then, but everybody gets the 1.5% COLA.
Everybody gets the 1.5%.
And then you and Mr. Galloway will decide who amongst, in this example, the police staff get something 0.5%, 1%, 1.5%, or 2%, something like that. That's merit. Merit. That's what we're talking. Okay. So that was my second question answered. The first one, the 25% increase in the non-salary personnel, is that driven?
It is driven by that WMATA.
Well, oh yeah. Yes, you are right. That is a big, 261's a big number. Okay.
Yeah, because if you, it's driven by that, and if you take a look, it's also driven by the workman's comp. Well, actually, it's not. It's we're coming in at the same level of workman's comp. It's the payroll taxes would increase.
Thank you.
And then likewise, the hospitalization. So those are but the WMATA is the biggest. Any questions on the salaries or the personnel? It's on my copy. Okay. We moved down to staff development, travel and training. And I'm looking, where did community engagement go on the?
It's 600.205 under professional services.
Professional services.
Okay, it moved. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. I'm looking at an old sheet. My apologies. Okay, travel and training. So if you would skip down to miscellaneous, and I just want to explain something here. So miscellaneous in the FY25 budget was $15,000. We've spent $334 currently, but we are in the next couple of weeks. We have to have our AEDs inspected. We have to have the radars calibrated, and our radar units calibrated, as well as the fire extinguisher service. So that's going to increase, but it's certainly not going to increase by that much. What I asked in consultation, the deputy chief and I asked of Mr. Galloway and our accountant was, as your chief, I don't like a category of miscellaneous heavily loaded up. To me, that just suggests potential impropriety. And so we took that down to 2,000, and we took the remaining 13,000 and put it into other areas that we thought were probably more important and more critical, or we're going to increase simply because we had the increase in staffing. So if we go back up to the travel and training, there was 50,000 budgeted for 2025. Estimated actuals, actually a little higher right now than the 13,000 that you see, but we're coming into the season where the Maryland Municipal Leagues Conference, MML's PEA, IACP, and things of those. So that money is going to, that estimated actual is going to increase. And because we've increased our staffing substantially, we added 5,000 of that miscellaneous up into the travel and training. We anticipate that we will hit that, particularly in consideration of the increased costs of mandated training that the state has imposed with regards to different statutory requirements for the Training Commission. Moving down, liability insurance and auto insurance, those have been, the auto insurance has been increased, and that's based upon where we are with our estimated actuals right now. And that goes with the increased staffing and the increased number of vehicles that we have on the street. We come down to commodities, materials, and supplies. Again, this is Materials and supplies of the day-to-day operation, miscellaneous, I've already explained. Equipment purchases are everything from firearms to ammunition, the heavier duty items, if you will, that takes to operate the police department. I'll stop there in case there's any questions on the commodities or the staff development.
Let's see, Councilmember Dowd. No.
Okay. Professional associations, again, that was part of the reallocation of the miscellaneous. Our professional associations are your state associations as well as your national associations. And this is to ensure that our sergeants can participate in those associations and receive the benefits of that participation and relationship. And we come down to our professional services. Uniforms stay the same. Our applicant screening stays the same. Applicant screening minus the CDSA. We continue to pay the cost of psychological, medical, and trying to think of the other. It's the Guardian that we use for electronic scouring of social media and things of that nature. Specialized services remains the same. Equipment maintenance. I noticed the $5. I brought that out the other day, and Anna has looked at that. So there is a number of. We have that sheet. I don't have it on the note on it.
No.
Yeah. So that's an area that we'll continue to look at. And then the community engagement, the additional 5,000 is from the miscellaneous. It was just reallocated so that we can continue to do what we're doing as it relates to working with the community. Auto repair, we've exceeded the budget, the estimated actuals in the budget, and that was primarily due to the resurrection of the 5 additional vehicles. So we're keeping that the same. The building utilities, that's going to be split. Mr. Galloway can explain that further, but it's going to be split 60-40 between town hall and the police department. So that number is that estimated actuals are going to increase. Telephones and wireless, we're right on track with where we should be. I want to come down to the Axon and the fuel. The Axon is a yearly contract. We paid a substantial amount for the first year, so this is a 4-year contract. So the next one won't be paid until January of 26, 27, 28, and 29. But that's all the body cameras, in-car cameras. So that's an increase over the budget. And then the fuel for the police department was being carried out of the public works budget. So that's been taken out of the public works and put in the police department. So it gives a clear view of operating your fleet. Moving down to capital outlay, we had originally had additional vehicles in the capital outlay. We removed those. From the budget. So there's 0 capital outlay in this upcoming budget. And that's the police department budget.
Councilmember Gallagher.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Regarding the capital outlay, okay, I remember you saying how you were able to use some of the old cars or cannibalize by taking some of the parts from the old cars to repair some of the other ones to extend their life. And I see, like, for the coming year, you have 0 for the capital budget. Does that leave you in a pinch if, say, one of the squad cars should break down, or something should happen to that? Or did I just miss where the contingency for that would be?
No, sir, you didn't miss it. We removed it because when we assessed our fleet, we've been able to, with the assistance of Mr. Galloway and the approval of the mayor and council, we've been able to acquire additional vehicles in the fleet. 7, I believe, total in the last 2 years. The resurrection of those deadline vehicles provides an additional vehicle per squad as a pool car, so that if a vehicle is in the shop, we've got additional vehicles in the fleet to supplement.
Got it.
We There's always room for more, but we really are trying hard to make sure that we are in a good position as it relates to the overall budget, not just for the police department, but more importantly for the town, and making sure that Mr. Galloway is able to allocate the resources in a way that serves the community globally. So we, again, assessing the fleet, the deputy chief and I are confident that we can manage the fleet with the staff that we have.
Excellent. Excellent.
And can I chime in real quick? The chief and deputy chief, they've done a phenomenal job of saving the town money as it relates to these vehicles because, in the previous administration, these cars were deadline and, we thought that we couldn't get any use out of it. So, we do apologize about any type of overage for this year, but as far as an auto repair, but it's for good reason, right? So we were able to bring those 5 cars back to life. On top of, we found a dealer, car dealer, and a upfitter that we will move forward with doing business with because of the chief's negotiation skills and, a vendor that we use, the solution. So this has been an all-around team effort, but, I take my hat off to the chief and deputy chief for saving us a ton of money on this. Typically in the past, we have budgeted for a certain amount of cars and for capital improvement. I'm confident now in the fleet that we have that we're good. I might make another recommendation next year, and the chief might as well. But for this year, moving for this fiscal year, I'm confident to say that we're good on vehicles. Right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That's sometimes good news is good news. It's wow. Am I really seeing this? Okay. I'll yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman White.
Just to follow up on that, now that does include the 3 line item new employees as well when they come on board, is
Yep.
the vehicles as well?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay.
We're taking that into consideration. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councilman Watson.
This is great. Thank you for the very succinct explanation. So thank you for that. This looks great to me. One request in line with what the request we made at the previous meeting would be to get the personnel chart that you have without the names. We don't need the names, but the patrol officer 1, and this is the salary, all, I think it's like 15 people in the department, which is great. So if that can just be included in the draft budget. And that's true, Mr. Galloway, for all of the individual budgets. I would ask for that. I guess a question, and I think I know the answer, so it's really more of a discussion topic, but if I got the question from a resident who says, look, the police is great. I love our police department. Why does it cost almost twice as much as it did 4 fiscal years ago? In 2022, so I think, it's good. I think it's just good to talk about, but in FY22, it costs less than $2 million. So there's good answers, but maybe it's a discussion topic more than I don't want to put it on the spot, but.
Yeah. So I think my response to that, and it's a great question. My response to that would be, you didn't have nearly the staff, which means that there wasn't as large a fleet. The body armor alone is $1,000 per piece, and body armor has a shelf life of 5 years. Most folks don't recognize that. If body armor gets submerged, it has to be replaced. So all of these costs, our training has increased. We have every officer has to go through 40 hours of in-service training. It's mandated by the commission. Let me rephrase. They mandate 18 hours. We do 40. So we exceed because we do what is set forth by the Maryland, by Prince George's Community College, where the municipal community college, where we send our officers. So, which also translates into a staffing piece because that's 15 officers, not counting the deputy chief and myself, but that's 15 current officers, 15 weeks. That's 15 weeks where we don't have the officer here in the town. They're in training. When we combine that with each officer taking 2 weeks of leave per year, that's another 30 weeks where we're down, where our staffing is constantly fluctuating. So that's perhaps not as succinct a response.
Perfect.
But I think the idea is that we've grown the police department and worked hard to grow the police department, and it just comes at a cost. Everything from fuel to uniforms to cars to salaries.
Thank you for doing it.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Galloway, are you still on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I don't know if this is something that you could do, but if you could have either Ms. Mock or if you and Chief could get together and look at a comparative analysis from 2019. I'm actually impressed with our budget for the police department. I remember it being 1/2 of our entire budget. So for us to now be here, where it's 1/3 of our budget, we actually have staff and cars. This is remarkable. In fact, unheard of, particularly given a recession and all that we have going on with our economy. So if we could do a comparative analysis from 2019 to today, I think we have some impressive things to share with residents about our cost savings.
So what does this look like? What does this look like, Mayor?
Really just pulling specifically our police department budget, because this is the area where we've had such an issue with staffing, and looking at how many people have we had staffed, how much was budgeted and how much was actually spent, how many cars we had, because there was a year where we did a hold on car purchases altogether. And then I would just look at those 4 variables specifically and then break down those costs so that we could see per person, per car, how much it cost us per year for our police department. I think we'd have a remarkable number to report on for this year compared to others.
So I can tell you just historically, historically speaking, well, a budget is not going to be able to tell me those details. We're going to have to do a little bit more digging, so we won't be able to ask for Diane Mock for this information. But yeah, we can definitely do that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think so. I think the community would appreciate seeing what has actually been done here, other than just the fact that we have more staff. There's a deeper story here about our police department and what we've been able to do. So, Councilmember Reiner?
I agree, Mayor, and I think it's quantitative, like you're saying, but also really qualitative. And you can see that in the presentation that Chief did before we started getting into the numbers, when you see not just how great our force is, but all of the improvements you've made in terms of processes and making sure that we're doing things by the book. And that's something that I think is really hard to convey, but so important and is not free, it costs money. But I very much appreciate that. So
Mayor, if I may, when I looked at the police department's budget for Cheverly compared to the overall budget of the town, police department's budget is probably right around 22 to 23% of the town's overall budget.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, and I did a little research today, just looking at other municipalities of comparable size here in Prince George's County, and those budgets range anywhere from 31 to 56% of their town's overall budget. So in one regard, we're operating as efficiently as we can, but I don't want to suggest that there's any fat on the bone either. Mm-hmm. If I can be so bold as to say that. So we are constantly juggling multiple balls in the air in order to make sure that we're keeping our staff on the street, and equally important that we're keeping our staff safe. Mm-hmm. There are agencies that will put one police officer out patrolling a town, and I'm not apologizing by saying I will not do that. Mm-hmm. It's just not safe. And when the proverbial crap hits the fan, wrestling by yourself with a suspect for 2 or 3 minutes waiting for someone else to get there is a life stage. Mm-hmm. And And we know that when we lose big. So, from our perspective, it's important that we make sure that our staff is safe, because if our staff's not safe, we can't keep the town safe. So, Councilmember Ryan, thank you for looking at that from a much more in-depth perspective, and Mayor, because that's how we look at it as well. It's not just the numbers on paper.
Mhm.
It's the deliverables that we're able to say. This community wants and deserves a professional law enforcement agency, and that is exactly what the deputy chief and I and Mr. Galloway and all of you collectively, through your hard work and looking at all of this through the course of the last, for me, it's hard to believe, I think we're about 18 months now, but a tremendous amount of work. And it's not lost on me that we don't get to where we are unless there's a whole lot of effort behind it. So from the deputy chief and I to all of you, thank you. We thank the community for your continued support and your input. And we want to work hard for you and make sure that we're delivering the quality service that you all expect and deserve.
Councilmember Gallagher?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also just want to reflect back just on that. When talking about qualitative improvements too, as from what I understand, members of the department have gotten certified to conduct training. I think you even spoke to that earlier today, that there are certain trainings that we no longer have to contract out for. Could you, I think, is it firearms training is one of them, and you could you speak to that and whatever else too?
Yes, sir. So the Maryland Police Training Standards Commission establishes what level of training is required to teach certain courses. So several of our officers are already certified as general instructors: Filer, White, Soller, Lieutenant Gleason coming on board, Sergeant Blunt. So they can conduct any training that exceeds 3 hours. I can do it for something less than 3 hours. My certification as instructor lapsed a long time ago. But anything over 3 hours requires someone to be certified as a general instructor through the Training Commission. Likewise, for firearms, we have several firearms instructors, so we don't have to contract out for that. We have to use other agencies' firearms ranges, and there's a cost associated with that. But we can certify our own officers with firearms. Same thing for field officer training. Same thing for electronic control devices, also known as tasers. All of those require independent certifications through the Maryland Police Training Commission. And we're getting ready to train one of our officers on EVOC, which is driver's training, so that when we see officers that perhaps could use some improvement in their driving skills, we don't have to contract that out we still have to use an EVOC course at a cost, but we can use our own instructors.
Just as a follow-up, so if you were to, let's say we weren't at that point like we are now, and we needed to say have our folks get trained from someone else, like what would we typically would have to pay for that kind of thing that we no longer would have to now?
So it depends on what training that might be. So firearms, we're able to use our own firearms instructors. I'm sorry. Same thing for EVOC. And so we would have to contract out with another agency to be able to provide that. But one of the things that we're looking at, which is in desperate need throughout the state, we have an individual that we have completed a background on that would be coming to us, retiring from another agency, but out of the state. That requires a comparative compliance program. There's not an agency in the state right now that typically provides that training, offering that course until the end of the year. So we're looking at working with a commission to be able to develop a comparative compliance training program. It's a 4 to 5 week training program for out-of-state officers that have to be certified in Maryland. The cost of that training alone is about $3,000.
Okay.
So We're also looking at, the Deputy Chief mentioned previously in a council meeting, that we are going to put all of our officers through a crisis negotiations course. That's a week-long training course. That's about $3,000 per officer if we had to send them outside of the agency. But we're bringing this, our staff is able to accommodate that in-house because of the certifications that they've acquired over the last 18 months.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. That just sort of gives an idea of some of the just sort of a ballpark idea. I know you said it really depends on the type of training. So this is, I'm not trying to pin you down and say this, but when we talk to the community, and we say, hey, we've got officers that can conduct our own training here. This is sort of a ballpark idea of the kinds of things that we can save money on as a result of us having officers that can conduct training. And just professional development is just necessary regardless. So this is not trying to put training under the microscope just for the sake of it. It's just more, again, like I said, contextualizing and being able to say, hey, we had to spend on this, but we also don't have to spend on that. That's really all I was going for.
Yeah, and if I could differentiate the difference between education and training. You educate the mind, you train in skill sets. So we train officers how to shoot. We train officers how to drive. We train officers how to use electronic control devices. We train officers in defensive tactics. But the professional development side is the educational side. And that's really where the emotional maturity comes into play, and understanding how that translates into a reduction, hopefully, in the need for use of force, because better communication skills translate into a better outcome. So thank you for putting that thought into my brain so I could kind of differentiate.
Thank you. That clears that's clear, and I yield back.
Councilman Wade?
Yeah, just an overall comment. You all know the value I know that you all have brought to the town. Just to see that fiscally we're in hard times right now, to see that this budget is 23% of the budget versus being in the past is truly amazing. That's just credit to your leadership, your knowledge of you all, as well as the people that you're bringing in. So I thank you for that. I apologize. I know I came a little late, but you might have brought up the aspect of community engagement, which is something that's very near and dear to me. So I see that there's a $5,000 difference. If you have spoken to it, do you mind speaking to the additional $5,000, overall $35,000, and what that's going to be brought to the town and the residents?
Yes, sir. So the increase of that 5,000 comes from the decrease in the line 600, 170 miscellaneous.
Right.
That's the area that we didn't feel comfortable with that perception.
Correct.
So one of the areas that we're looking at is creating we're calling it a community police academy.
Right.
Most agencies refer to it as a citizens police academy. We thought that the terminology is more appropriately focused when we're talking about community. So that will be a program that we hope to stand up in the next fiscal year, which will allow our residents, mayor, council, and others to participate in a program that allows you to get a overview of what a police academy, what our officers get in the police academy.
Right.
So everything from judgmental enhancement to a review of the laws, bringing in a judge to talk about the judicial process, bringing in instructors to talk about police accountability, provide an overview of integrity and ethics that we emphasize not only in the academy, but reinforce during in-service training, and probably daily conversations between the deputy chief and me with our staff. So the Prince George's County has been running one for a long time. The deputy chief and I have both had the opportunity to not only participate, but be directly involved in providing that training. Me as the commander, her as a sergeant, working under previous Major Morris. So we want to bring that to the community. So we're probably looking at 3 hours on a Saturday in the morning and for about 10 or 12 weeks with and welcoming anyone in the community to be able to participate.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments from council? Anything from community? Okay, well, with that, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay. Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. You all have a good night. Thank you.
Awesome.
Go on.